I know the Bengals won today, and maybe everyone's buzzing in Cincinnati they're not going to make the playoffs. Like maybe you're buzzing off this win, but it's like I think ESPN makes them a 3% chance. New York Times might have them less than 3% chance to make the playoffs with how things shook out today. Like the Bengals are going to miss the playoffs this year. The parting thought is I think Zac Taylor is good, but he's not great. And we talked about the Bucs and them trying to make a power move, trying to keep Liam Cohen. I think what's going to happen this offseason is Zac Taylor is going to get the benefit of the doubt and a scapegoat firing in Lou Anarumo, a defensive coordinator that I still remember, 3 or 4 years ago, every person with eyeballs that watch football said is one of the best defensive coordinators in the league. Like on their Super Bowl run, I think a lot of
shut down Mahomes.
Smart football analysts and casual football fans were like, Lou Anarumo's the GOAT in that Super Bowl run. And now they're just going to Zac Taylor's going to get the opportunity to fire him, blame this season on the defense. The defense has been bad. Don't get me wrong. The defense has been flat out horrible this year. It's a big part of the reason why they won today, but that was against Will Levis and Mason Rudolph and this Tennessee Titans team. Like the Bengals, to me, they're going to miss the playoffs this year because, yes, the defense has not played well. They've had injuries on that side of the ball, whatever. I still think that there is going to be a hard ceiling on this team where things just get harder for this team because Zac Taylor is the head coach. It's going to limit them from getting a better offensive play caller. I don't know if you saw today, the touchdown pass to Chase Brown for Joe Burrow was the longest average time to throw on a touchdown pass in his career. He had the longest average time to throw in a single game he's had this year. Like he's constantly waiting on things. He's constantly asking people to get open and scramble late on these plays. Like I don't think there are easy buttons Zac Taylor is creating in this offense. They haven't been able to run the football legitimately effectively for larger stretches of seasons the entire era of Zac Taylor, right? You're telling me if you're a Cincinnati Bengals fan, and I told you the Bengals just fired Zac Taylor and they offered Ben Johnson a godfather offer, $2 million more than any other coach in the league. And then Ben Johnson, who's been reluctant to leave Detroit for reasons we all don't completely understand, but he's had head coaching interviews and he hasn't taken the opportunity. A lot of people thought he was going to go to Washington last year. He said no. He's waiting for the right opportunity to leave Dan Campbell. If he goes to Cincinnati, you're telling me he's not going to take that from Cincinnati? Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, they tell him we're going to bring T. Higgins back. Like Ben Johnson jumps at the opportunity. I think every single Bengals fan in the world is like, let's freaking go. I think Zac Taylor is going to continue to limit this team.
Well, that's the thing is you have the holy grail of attracting head coaching talent. Mm-hmm. It's like what the Chargers just did to get Jim Harbaugh. It's like Jim Harbaugh would never have gone to LA if Justin Herbert wasn't there, right?
He probably would have been. He wanted to go to the Raiders. Like Jim Harbaugh wanted to go to the Raiders. He's like, no, I'm going to the Chargers instead because they got the quarterback and all that.
Because they have the quarterback. And when you have that quarterback, and if you are any coach that believes in yourself at all, you would take less money to go for a guy because it's the stability of the fact that Joe Burrow is going to be around for a decade plus, more in his career. So I will be around a decade plus if I'm Ben Johnson. And
exactly.
That's for sure. So it does blow my mind that they've been so tied to him and giving him extension after extension. I think they just gave him.
I wonder what Joe Burrow's opinion of that is. I know what his public opinion might be and that he's going to back Zac Taylor. But if ownership had a private conversation with Joe Burrow and there was a legitimate shot, say, getting Buffalo Bills OC Joe Brady as the new head coach. Does
Jamar Chase and Joe know very well, right?
Does Joe Burrow say you know what? Yeah, I like Zach, and no one wants to get people fired, but this is the mafia. Zac Taylor gets fired, he's going to be some running backs coach for a team forever, and he's going to get the payroll. Don't worry about this whole oh man, it's don't worry about Zach. Press Taylor still has a gig. He'll find job, he'll find work. I just think it's important for this Cincinnati Bengals team, who I think has one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I think that's fair. Top 3 quarterback in the league. Sometimes you feel like he's top 2. They should be competing for Super Bowls every year. You can't do that if you don't even make the freaking playoffs. To not make the playoffs with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. I don't care how many points they're scoring per game. At a certain point, this is on Zach. If they go back and win that week 1 game against New England, there's a more of a likelihood that they're in the playoffs. They're 1 or 2 better decisions away probably from Zac Taylor from being in a better spot. I don't know. I think they limit this team. He limits this team.
I do think about all the time as a Packers fan, if the Packers would have fired Mike McCarthy after 2016 when they got the doors blown off by the Falcons and Kyle Shanahan was available that offseason. Now, would they have gotten Shanahan over San Francisco? Who knows? But probably they had Aaron Rodgers. You would have had OCs line it up to want to scheme up for Aaron Rodgers. And just the way things would have been different had that been the case. But then 3 more years of him just farting out offenses in a terrible relationship between the two. It's like, we didn't need to see that. We knew it was going south at that point. So that's kind of how I feel.
One of my hypotheses with why Ben Johnson hasn't accepted a head coaching opportunity, one of it is like he doesn't trust the supporting cast. He wants a stable quarterback. Maybe he doesn't want to develop a rookie, whatever. I think another part of it too is that he, compared to other OCs that get head coaching opportunities, might struggle to pull existing Lions coaches with him. Like D'Amico Ryans, for example, in Houston, was able to bring Bobby Slowick and a handful of other coaches with him to Houston because obviously there's commitment to Kyle Shanahan, but a lot of people had that support for D'Amico Ryans. With Dan Campbell in Detroit, like how many of these positional coaches are going to jump at the opportunity? Now, if he goes to Cincinnati, it gets that much easier. Ben Johnson looks the tight ends coach, the running backs coach, the receivers coach in the face and says, "You want to go play with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T?" We have legit talent over there. We could do some damage. So I don't know. I'm interested to see how the Bengals treat this offseason. I almost feel like I know it's going to be firing Lou Anarumo, finding a new defense coordinator, and convincing themselves that Zac Taylor elevates his team. But who knows?
All right, my parting shot. 5 games starting at 4:25 p.m.
Yes.
How is this not the standard? Why do we start games at 4:05 when there's always a half dozen games in the 1 p.m. slate not done yet? So you inevitably, I don't care how big of a football fan you are, you inevitably miss 1 to 2 drives of some game or another because it's blocked out and you have to watch the one that's on the 1 p.m. And so you literally, I don't care if you have the YouTube TV package and 16 TVs at your disposal, you're going to miss some of the game in that 4 p.m. window. And then more often than not, we're getting these 3-game 4 p.m. windows and 2 of them are god awful. It's like, why can't we have a nice full 4 p.m. window that gives us something to choose from? It's like, why do we stack a 9-game 1 p.m. window that I can't even put on 2 quad boxes with 2 TVs? It's just common sense. Seemingly eludes the NFL in their decision making more often than not. It's just that they're not thinking about the assault on fans, with the streaming wars, and having to have all these different packages to just watch NFL football games. At least give us this going forward. Eliminate the 4:05 and give us a 4:25 fixed slate that, unless a game goes to OT, you're not running into that window.
If they're going to have games on Wednesdays because it's Christmas and games on Black Friday because it's it's going to be on Peacock, it's going to be on Netflix, it's going to be on Amazon. Who knows? It could be on OnlyFans at a certain point. We don't know where the NFL is going to go. If they're going to do all that, can you at least fix Sunday, please? And fix Sunday. It should be 7 to 9, no more than 9. I understand that maybe limitations 7 to 9 in the 10 a.m. slate or the 1 p.m. slate on the East Coast. Then it should be 4 to 6, no lower than 4. How many 4 o'clock slates this year have we had 3 games? That's not acceptable. We need 4 games minimum for the quad. And if you need to go 5, you need to go 6. I respect that too. We didn't really watch Patriots Cardinals today because it was the only irrelevant game to the playoffs during the 5-game window, but I'm fine with that. I'm fine with catching up that game later. The real problem to me, I think, is the Thursday night football piece. The Thursday night football, because of how much Amazon is paying for it and how much money Amazon is probably making off of it, they're doubling down on that. The Amazon wants Wednesday games. They want Friday games. They want Saturday games. I don't think Thursday night football is going anywhere. But, man, if I could have a Christmas list to Santa, I would say get rid of Thursday night football. No more of this short week bullshit, stuff that we know players and coaches hate. Mm-hmm. And pack the afternoon slate with 4+ games. Morning slate should be 7 to 9. Sprinkle in all of your European cross-pond games or out-of-country games before the trade deadline. And then Sunday night football, with Monday night football kicked up double headers like we have tomorrow, that then becomes Sunday night football. It becomes one of the biggest island spots. And every Sunday night football really feels like that monumental game. I don't know. That's just as a true fan. I know that we probably won't make more money that way in the NFL, but I think fans would appreciate that.
They will not. I do think there's going to come a time where they're going to realize that the money grab's hurting them.
Well, I think so. Let's break. Why did they do?
I give them 2 more years of it getting worse before the number starts to decline, and they have to reel it in.
They had to have tested this 5-game 4:25 all start. They had to have tested this for a reason. The NFL's not dumb. I think that they're going to see a lot of feedback from this 5-game 4:25 p.m. start. Mm-hmm. And be maybe what let's actually drill down on why do we start these games at 4:05? Why isn't it all the same time like we do with the 10 a.m. slate? Why do we like that for the 10 a.m. slate, but we don't like that for the afternoon slate? I think they have to drill down on those questions because I think it's going to be obvious that the feedback is positive for all these games starting in that later window.
Yeah, I can't imagine I think I know why. Like, I think they want the 425 is usually the game of the week. So they want the game of the week that Fox gets or whatever CBS gets.
Yeah.
It's the number one crew. They want that ending after all the other ones. So they want all the eyeballs on it. But it's just,
you're creating fake island spots though, because everyone's paying attention to every
yes.
game that's on that matters. And it doesn't matter if one started 20 minutes earlier or 20 minutes later. It's the more important game. You're often going to find yourselves in situations where the third quarter of that later game is not being watched because people are paying more attention to this 405 start. Like I think that the NFL, it's better for red zone too. And I'm not a red zone guy anymore. I think YouTube TV, multi-view, like I usually put up like 4 up top and maybe 4 down low during the 10 a.m. slate. But like red zone's better in the afternoon slate when it's not just like 2 or 3 games. You ever watched red zone in a 3-game afternoon slate? It's a goddamn disaster. Like so it's rough.
That's, I think, the thing that the NFL doesn't quite get about the NFL fandom. It's not that it's that if a game is not going well, like everyone's going to watch their team, right? No matter what, you watch your team. But you're also a fan of the general NFL.
You're a fan of the football player.
If there's a blowout, most people aren't going to sit there and watch it. So that's why when you get 4 games, there's a chance one of them or 2 of them are good in that slate. If there's 3 games, sometimes you just get duds. No good matchups. And it's
you increase the game size, you increase the chance that there's 1 or 2 of those games is going to be like a 1-score 1 late. Like when you do 3 games, it could be 2 scores all 3.
When you put a ton of island games out there, you just can't. That's not sustainable because so many of them are going to be bad, right?
Yeah,
there's going to be a
bad, quote unquote bad. Not like no football game is bad, but like I get what you're saying.
But it's third, fourth quarter, and you're like, I'm turning it off, right? And the more you do that, the more games you have like that, the more you're like, oh man, the product's not as good. But it's because you're having to sit through all the product. You're not getting to like. You want to get to the best games. You want to see the best games. And if you have to sit through every single game in the NFL to see the best games, a lot of people just aren't going to do it. You're just going to get diminishing returns.